like you can talk forever about what you're not. It can be very instructional. Talking about what you are is just, the system hearing it will just conceptualize it, so it's already defeated. Yeah, so people, let's say they make the mistake of talking about void, so then the person set up hears it, and then it's the void, as if it's a place in Potrero Hill, you know, the void. Yeah, it can't help but do that. Yeah, so you would think that there are noble categories of topics that would be immune to that system, putting it, whatever it is, into the system, not letting it be a threat to the system, but absorbing it into the system. So void, and then just look at what enlightenment has done in just the little groups that I see. Most of the people would have been better off never to hear the word. Really. It's just another thing that they irritate themselves with. Yeah, and it's big, has a big stinger because enlightenment. That's why we're here for, and awakening and stuff. But you can't wake up if you're already awake. Oh, here he is. Oh, it's a men's group. This is a little reunion, yeah. It's a men's group.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So, you know, it shows its own futility if you've just been on it yourself, where you hear descriptions of the ever, always, allness, and all like that, and yet it doesn't seem to translate into any sense of it. Yeah, you have an idea of it, and then you think you know it now, and then immediately it's thrown into becoming a goal or a target that you're shooting for. Yeah, but this message is totally different because you're not spending any time describing what is. You're spending all the time describing what's not, so that what is can freaking figure it out. Yeah, because if you keep talking to what's not about what is, it doesn't go anywhere. You gotta flip it around and talk to what is. See, and also you gotta do like a lot of end runs, you know? You gotta sort of throw a lot of curves where the catcher used to catching everything. You throw a certain like fuzz knuckleball, then it gets in. And when it hits the backstop, there ain't no backstop. It just keeps going, and then that sleeping, non-sleeping aspect goes, hey, wait a minute, I may not be that. So when you see all the whispers, all the insinuations, and seeing doesn't mean vision, it means hearing it or understanding it or whatever. Seeing is a multifaceted statement, yeah? It sees in seemingly different ways here. Some stuff you see, sometimes you hear, sometimes you understand, sometimes you get an experience like that, but it's seeing or awareness, let's say. Yeah. So instead of looking for that awareness from what you're not, turn the awareness on what you're not. Yeah. And then see if the shoe actually fits. And if it does, now you got that first step it's like the Course would say, the correction that never needed to be corrected. So basically the Course is constantly implying that nothing happened here really. You're not separate, you haven't left the garden, you know, you didn't disengage from Godhood and do this. It's all a belief, it's all a dreaming. You're dreaming this. And all that is needed really is to see that you're not the dreamt, so to speak. Yeah. The dreamt gives great meaning to the dreaming, as if it's real. Yeah. So there's a feeling of being separate. There's a feeling of being distant from the truth. And if you have self-centeredness, or if that's the main system. See, I had the perfect. All you need is maybe one example. It explains the whole thing. I remember to this day, I was. My father, I was the youngest, and my father got ill when I was around 6. And before that, he was playing and hanging out, he was available. And then he was gotten very ill, and he wasn't going to be available. So they had me sitting in the front yard, on the backyard, on a picnic table, and the doctor, at that time you had the family doctors, Dr. Jan Quinto came over to tell me, hey, your father is really ill and he's not going to be able to play with you, you know. And then my mother sat there and, oh yes, you know, da, da, da. And I heard it all and I understood, but in the conditioning, it was, what did I do to cause my father not to want to play with me? That was it. That explained everything. So the idea in the course is that we're in we're trying to avoid the guilt of separation, because it's not that we find ourselves separated. When we believe we're separated, we believe we had something to do with it. Like we made a huge fucking boo-boo and we separated from the Godhead, and now we're here to suffer the consequences. And I don't want to do that, so I'm going to dump it on you and other things as much as possible, because I'd like to unload this heavy load, yet that process of unloading it only produces more. It's like the reverse fishes and loaves, yeah? You try to dump guilt on your parents or someone else, and just more gets produced, yeah? So this whole point is, with the most earnestness you ever had, and maybe you didn't have it in quote-unquote spirituality, but some people here have had it, and they're trying to tell you that there's a fundamental glitch that predetermines all of those paths to fail, and that's actually how they serve us, is they fail us, yeah? So that you're left with your own devices, and then you hopefully see that they are not your devices, yeah? You've been using, it's like, the Toyota's a Toyota if there's a Buddha driving it or fucking Mac Hedderman's driving it. The Buddha doesn't change the Toyota. It's using the Toyota. Yeah, so these are Toyotas. Yeah. Now, we're so body-oriented that we believe that if we, as that which we truly are, but still identified as Toyota, if that would happen, then the Toyota would demonstrate huge superior Toyota-hoodness, you know? And then a lot of people exile themselves from the possibility of being that which they're looking for, because they don't turn out the way they thought when they believed they found it, you know? They believe this should be chilled out now completely, and I should never get upset and just incessantly on loving and everything like that. And then the limitations of the body are going to show themselves, and therefore suddenly you can't, it's cognitive dissonance, you can't make sense. How could I, because you're still thinking I is this, be enlightened if that fucking, you know, paperboy missing my porch ruined my Sunday? You know, it doesn't equate. Yeah? But the point is to see you're not that. Don't waste any more time looking for what you are, because what you're not is constantly demonstrating itself. It's just basically going, yeah, just check it out. How could this possibly be you? Yeah. So that's why I say it's a weird way and people get confused by it, but to me, we really are the seeing of what we're not. In the seeing of what we're not, that's the sense of what we are. It's never, I am really the seeing of what I am. No, you're fucking not. This is, I'm really the seeing of what I'm not. That works, yeah. So once that is corrected, where all that attention and interest, instead of being, you know, dressed up for a fucking spiritual army march, is let go at ease, then it's that relaxed awareness. Then you're in it at all times. It's present and available no matter what shenanigans are happening. They're happening within. You wouldn't know they were happening if they were outside the field of interest and attention. Without you seeing it, there's no movie. Yeah? You have a huge role here. So this whole, like, to me, the AA statement just blows my mind. It's like a gift that keeps on giving. Self can't get out of self. It explains, see, because I don't think it was in the book, but a lot of people experienced a lot of stuff for years, and then suddenly it became obvious to certain people that, wow, we've been trying to get out of self as a self. And we're going to warn everyone and just circulate this little statement, self can't get out of self, that has been very, very cryptic, But in fact, it's totally self-explanatory. How much do you take 3 years of schooling? You just self can't get out of self. If it triggers a response, like you go, wow, and then you see that that's all I've been doing most of the time, you got the whole scripture. You got the whole thing. It's time to put it down and move it because you got it. The scripture doesn't have to be 500 pages. It's the wallop. And the wallop sometimes gets delivered by the shortest punches of all. And one of them is self can't get out of self. When that hit me, it explained really in all the different behaviors, they were all basically captured by that statement. I've been trying, because in the act of being identified, you're clear something's annoying you, irritable, restless, and discontent, but you don't see it as a you, yeah? You don't see it because when you're in the act of being identified, you don't know, that's part of the act of being identified, is that you can't know you're identified or you wouldn't be in the act of being identified. Yeah, if you were in the act, if you knew it, the act would have been stopped, yeah? Because the act is, you're in the act. It's not like, oh, this powerful old fucking thing is in the act of causing you to be identified. No, it's you. It's us. We're in the act of being identified ourselves. There's no one else that's doing it to us. We would love it to be someone else because then we can blame them and, you know what I mean? But in fact, it's us. We're the dreaming of the dream. I mean, how clear can you get? If anyone has any sense of the resonance of the Course in Miracles, they should read it then. If you're the dreaming of the dream, that's it. That means, it's sort of like you're the one who urinated on the floor. It's not a very cryptic, mystical statement. There's the puddle, you missed the thing, and your wife or girlfriend says, stop pissing on the floor. She's not, so obviously it's you. It's not like a huge, well, let's go over this. It's very direct. Yeah, you're pissing on the floor. Oh. And maybe that will cause you to stop pissing on the floor. And it's usually because of your standing position. Because no one taught you probably how to do it, so then you learn, okay, maybe if I hang over more, oh, now I'm not pissing on the floor. Yeah, I don't know where I was before there, but that caught me there. So we're the dreaming of the dream. Wow. So that says a lot, doesn't it? Let's say let's say the dream can be encompassed by you as the dreaming, giving everything all the meaning it has. That would be that's pretty aligned with the idea of being the dreaming. Like when you're dreaming at night, it's basically all you, yes? When you believe you're dreaming at night. You don't think Steve or Stanley are dreaming, it's you dreaming. Yeah, you're dreaming everything and it's just whatever. So you and I are the dreaming of the dream. That means, wow, what does that mean? It doesn't say you're the dreamt of the dream. That would be the act of being identified, yeah? That would be after the act of being identified. It would be described as you're in a dream, which a lot of people describe it that way, but that is incorrect, is it? You're in a dream. That would be you're the dreamt in the dream, and the dream has captured you as the dreamt. It can't capture you as the dreaming, obviously, yeah. But it can seemingly, it appears to the dreaming that it's captured when it's identified as the dreamt. Get down to the exact nature of the wrong, because that's how, see, if you see the, see, It's like that same thing. If you're the one who's missing the urinal, you're living in a house full of women, and finally it's pointed out to you, you see, you can see it, and it's quite an educational download. You're like, oh, I could probably maybe start sitting on the toilet and cause, there would be a reaction. You'd see it clearly. So if you're the dreaming of the dream, how would the dreaming take the dream to be real? If it was dreaming it, it would be clear that it would have a huge role in it. But it could seemingly forget that role by simply being in the act, because it's not identified with the dreamt. It's in the act of being identified with the dreamt. Because the act of being identified with the dreamt never produces the identification as the dreamt. It just implies it. It insinuates it. It assumes it. It believes it, but it doesn't actually produce it. So it's always the act of being identified as a self. And if you notice, if you do have a little break during the day, and then you go into one of the mental processes, you catch it in the act of being identified as a self every fucking time. There's not one time it's fully clothed. All you see it is putting on the outfit of self, but it's never there's never a self you ever catch. It's like a striptease in a reverse. It never completes, because it's only the act of being identified. So you catch it in the act. What usually happens if you catch it in the act of anything? If you catch the burglar in the act, or you catch your girlfriend in the act of lying, it usually stops. There's a pause, because wow, you caught them in a sense. Why aren't we in that pause? Why aren't we seeing the act of being identified as a self? And the seeing of it would allow a possibility that looking from the identification never offers you a giant pause before it actually gets any momentum. You could put it to a stop because you're catching yourself stealing. You hit it. Get your hand out of there. Oh, it's my hand. What happened? There's something happens, doesn't it? I mean, wouldn't you come to? Oh, that hurt. Oh, I've caught myself. Yeah. That's like that, the Zenbitchslap. That's what it's like. You catch yourself. If you catch yourself once, it can just go do, 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 and you see, hey, I'm in the assumption that it's already so, that I'm a body that wants to get out of being a body, because it really sucks as a body to be a body. It does. The body wants to get out of the body. Badly. Terrible joints and fucking shit like that. It wants, but it can't. See, the car can never get out of the car. It's fucking impossible. We want to get out of the car as the car. If you saw it as just a car and you were not the car, then you would easily get out of it. Because it wouldn't, see, the trap is self-made. It has you wanting to get out, which reinforces the belief you're in. It's perfect. You sustain the joke, so to speak. You sustain, this is like a prison with no guards, no warden, no locks, no bars, because you keep re-imprisoning yourself. It's like self-maintained. It's you, the prisoner, does all the work. It plays every role. It's like a perfect budget. There's absolutely no money spent. Hey, they're all imprisoning themselves. Fuck it, let's go. What is it? Are you going to wait for another savior? If that savior isn't there 24/7, 365 days a year, you're going to have a real strong feeling at times you're not saved. Because you need the savior to be saving you. But as Buddha supposedly said near the end of his life, hey, be a light unto thyself. Hey, it's time to not, he didn't say find a light unto you. He said be the light unto yourself, because you are the light. See, these aren't huge demands. Like if you were darkness and then something came over to you and said be the light, you'd be like, fuck. I got all this against it, I'm darkness. But be the light to the light isn't a command. It's just an obvious I don't know what you would call it, like an observation. Hey, be the light unto thyself. Yeah. Wow, what a fucking novel idea. No, it isn't. It was just he's describing what's actually happening. Yeah. So I love it because it's a loving of it. It's never gone to be remembered, and therefore it can never be forgotten either. See, spending any time, like I remember that lady sent that thing from Ramesh Balsekar, this teacher. It was kind of came from 2001 or something. And she sent me this little 5-minute bit, and I was wondering why. Then I realized he's talking to a guy named Paul, and and then I hear me, and I go, wow, that's me, you know? And then hearing it now, he's trying to get something across to me, which was pointless anyway, but he was talking about the impersonal presence, you know, all that there is, and then seemingly the personal presence. And this is how I understood it a couple of weeks ago when I heard it. He was telling me that the personal presence doesn't have to remember the impersonal presence because it is the impersonal presence. So it's sort of like, let's say, Paul, do you have a house at home? And I didn't at the time. I was going around the world tripping. But let's say he said, "Do you have a place to stay when you're at home?" I go, "Yeah." He says, "When you go out to work, you have to keep going. I have a home. I have a home. I have a home." Or like, you know, I'm a man. I'm a man. You're a man. It's in a sense. Yeah, there's a home. So while you're working. You don't have to keep remembering you have a home because the home you have one. Yeah. The impersonal presence doesn't have to be remembered by the personal seeming presence because there's not two of them. It would be pointless for something that doesn't have two to remember itself from another point. Yeah. What does this all do? It takes all, see, like there was an old Zen thing, I'll get it wrong, but they would say like, 1 minute is like 10,000 years. They were playing around with the idea of time, or like if you think or something, you add 10,000 years or something. Yeah, because that's what's happened. Because you're it, you're the dreaming. So if you're believing these concoctions of ideas of there's time and all this is going to happen, and like even in the Course in Miracles, they talk about medicine and shit as magic. Yeah, and you'll see what happens. If this was played out, what technology is doing for us will be done with mind. Mind isn't at the point where it can just go like this in this little dreamscape, so it makes things to seemingly access the power of mind. Yeah, there's no iCloud. There's fucking mind. It's just total space. But because we don't believe it, we have to take little baby steps. Oh, so I'm going to put this virtual reality thing on. But you're in one already. But we don't need the goggles, and there can't be a company selling it to you. Yeah? And then having you pay a fucking subscription every month. You're in it. You're it. So, you see, a lot of us aren't willing. So they say, well, listen, if you need something, and the idea of placebo, that doesn't trigger some kind of entertaining. That in research, placebo works just as good as the medicine you're paying $500 for. What's that but dreaming? I mean, I can take a sugar tablet, and it's going to seemingly produce, because it's definitely never the thing. Mind precedes all. Yeah. Why do you want to worship the cart? Yeah. Put the horse in front. Let the horse be where it is, which is in front of us. Yeah. Mind leads. Yeah. Not mind, mental. I don't call what we call mind. I call it mental process, to tell you the truth. I think thought system has not even close to mind. Memories and perceptual fucking hocus pocus, not even close. They're mental processes. They're like But mind, big mind or beingness or awareness and stuff, it's here in this event, we find out about that by knowing what we're not. By, this thing of experiences are all about what you're not. What you are isn't an experience. What you are is not even having experience. What you are is the basis of all experiences, and it can influence all experiences, but it's not having an experience. There's no to in it, yeah? There's no this for that to be experienced. Like I had these little evolutionary leaps worked, even in the world of AA. All right. You have an idea about higher power. Then some stuff downloaded. I realized, the higher power in my sense is always available at all times with no requirement necessary to meet it. Pretty much now, yeah. And where is this requirement? When are these conditions? Here and now. Whatever here and now you're in, that's the same condition. It's always available at all times, right where you are, with no requirement necessary. That's fucking awesome. It made something that if you put the tiniest little gate, the gateless gate is now a gate, yes? Where the message is it's a gateless gate. It's like an open secret. How could it be a secret? It was open, exactly. It's always available at all freaking times. Yeah. So you have these evolution, and then one of the biggest ones was, Jesus, it's impossible to be out of any moment. So it took all that drive of getting into a moment, which was really reinforces the insane idea that you could be out of any moment, yeah? And it saved so much fucking time and effort. Like, just cut the whole thing at the root, yeah? I haven't spent a second, not 1 second, trying to get into a moment for years and years and years. I am super clear I can't be out of a moment. So then suddenly you never get gypped, You just never get gypped. You can't even trot out the old, I really missed that. You didn't miss a fucking thing. Nothing happened. It was just, and then suddenly, if something was supposed to happen, it did. If it wasn't, it didn't. There you go. There's all the debating about the past. It's very clear. Yeah, because the head would love to unfurl the little fucking mythical fag. Oh, what if only, blah, blah. If only I was a woman, I'd have kids, but I'm not a woman, You know what I mean? It's insane. The insane idea of, if I didn't get hit by the car, but I got hit by the car. It's missing a big point that can't seem to be moved out of the way, so it just fucking gives itself a mythical way of jumping over shit. It doesn't work. Yeah. Here he is, the wanderer.
Hey.
Breathe, my friends.
How are you?
What?
How are you?
How am I?
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Good.
Yeah. Having fun. Having so much fun. It's the most fun challenge to try to, because if you're going to go talking about that which can't be talked about, you'd have to just sit quietly. But you can talk a whole lot about what you're not, because it's hilarious, right? You can it's like a treasure trove of humor, yeah? And you can milk it like a cow every freaking week. I mean, I've been, seemingly it just keeps, it never runs out of material. It's like the Trump administration. The fucking Stephen Colbert is like cha-ching. He doesn't say anything other than about that guy every night. And to me, he's a genius. So, no, it's like milking the cow. Well, I've watched people give talks. Sometime I did these retreats where they'd have the people there. And after like a year or two, I realized I should go to some of the other meetings, you know, because they paid me to come and I'm supposed to be hanging out. So I would sit there and I'd close my eyes and I would listen to people. And they would start with talking about the noumenon and this and that and that and this, yeah? Talking about what you can't talk about. And then they'd always hang themselves because it would turn into doing to get to there. Yeah, and I'd almost like, sometimes I'm at recovery meetings and I get embarrassed by the speaker. I sit there going, feeling terrible. That's how I was feeling. I was sitting there going, oh, because the more he kept going, the bigger the trap. He was getting caught like every 5 minutes. You're hung to dry, and it felt so bad. Yeah, because of you don't, just like the time we had the thing for my friends from the Course in Miracles, and the first thing they started sharing with people was there is no world. And at break, everyone left, and no one came back. And some of them, they were all from the dry dock. They never came. I never saw them again. Period. So I sat there. I learned a lot. I said, "There's no fucking way to teach to that. You can't be of service, really. You're just going to feed a conceptual idea, yeah. So go towards what you're not, because you are very intimately in relationship, seemingly, to what you're not. You're identified as it most times. So when it's described, it will hit you, and there'll be that resonance, and then you can bring the punch in, yes? But without, so you can study about what you're not. You can study, you can experience what you're not all fucking day. You can learn about what you're not. So the same thing, instead of applying it to that which you can't learn, that which you can't experience, that which you can't know, turn it, and instead of trying to get into the spiritual constipation, I'm not going to try to know anyone. No, fucking use that same thing. Just let it be directed correctly, which is study what you're not. Study it. And hear other people, and you'll see that, hey, it sounds like you've got my thoughts, my feelings, and my reactions to life. Why? Because they're not mine, nor are they yours. Yeah? So the Fords, it's like I wanted to do a cartoon once. There was like a half-ton pickup with slap wood, and on the sign was Mike's Meat Packing Plant, and there was all these cows in there. And then underneath it, then there was one cow was like this, looking up, and I said the awakened one. The one cow. That's it. Yeah? It's seeing what you're not. That's the point. That's the launch that never needs to be launched. Yeah? Because when you see what you're not, sooner or later, there's a sense of what you are at the exact moment when you're seeing what you're not. Because now the seeing isn't attributed to what you're not. It's attributed, it's placed perfectly where you are, seemingly in a strange way, at all fucking times. So then you realize you are what you've been looking for, but not as that which has been looking. Yeah? It's clarified, and it may happen all of a sudden, or it may happen, but it's like it will run into the 100th monkey syndrome when there'll be a sense, wow, I am truly the seeing of what I'm not. That's how I get to it. I can't get to it through what I'm not, other than by the netty of it, the not that, and in that, what's left is what's always been so. And then if it hits you in a certain way, at least in my sense, it informed me that it had always and will always be this way. It had never been what I had been thinking it had been all those years. It was erased as if it had never been there. Yeah. The negation is like, because it doesn't hit anything to negate. It's just like seeing is infinite because seeing never lands on an object. It's just seeing infinitely. It doesn't hit a chair and go and give it name. Oh, that's a chair. It just seeing. You get a sense of that. And also, this is going on. That's the trip, yeah? The bubble could have something in it, yet it's still of the ocean, yes? So the bubble comes off the surface, agitation produces it, and then the bubble has an extended life, maybe 70 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 50 years. It pops, and where does it fucking go? Nowhere, because it never was anything. Was the ocean was the ocean ever convinced it was the bubble? No fucking way. It can only seem like it was the bubble through the being identified as the bubble. It appeared to the ocean that it was separate, or it appeared to the ocean that it was the wave, but it didn't change the fact that it's ocean, nor will it ever change the fact. And how long does the wave, do you want to spend any time from the wave's point of view, trying to study the ocean, trying to have an experience of the ocean? Wouldn't it be much clearer to see that you're not a wave? And then what would you immediately find out on the ocean? Yeah? Being has to be commandeered some way to make it seem like all we can do is know and understand and experience when we are that, yeah? That's the only possibility that's available to us, is being it. So in a way, this misdirection was corrected years ago, and I've never gotten a revised correction of that, ever. And I think I've been in the business for years. And not one revision of that. Just a simple correction. Stop looking for what can't be found. Yeah? And take a look at what's looking. Yeah. Does the pointing make something so? No, of course not. All the pointing in the world can't do a damn thing unless that which is so entertains it. We're it. Yeah, we're dreaming this dreaming. I could have said God is the dreaming of the dream, but it doesn't. It says you and I are the dreaming of the dream. God, you and I. Drop the you and the I. God. And then do whatever you're going to do. You know? You want to be a great yogi? Be a great yogi. Everyone has a seed assignment. It'll be fulfilled. The seed assignment doesn't mean it's not like an engraved seat. This whole place is like musical chairs. Music comes on, you get up. Man, you keep stopping at the same seat. It still doesn't mean it's yours. It's just seed assignments, yeah. I have a seed assignment now. I thought I had conveniently ducked my whole life. Now I'm involved in a situation. I thought I had passed my prime concerning that, but life had a different idea. So it's sort of like someone you've been in coach all your life, and someone come, hey, we'll put you in first. What? It's a little late in the game. We don't care. You're going up to first. Warm almonds and Mr. Hedderman. Get used to it. And you know, it's kept me very dumb in a lot of ways, on a spiritual level. It knows I'm most useful just the way I seem to be. Which I wish they would have brought me in to consult. I would have liked to have changed a lot. But it seems that it's working fine for whatever's going on, so. It's like in AA when they talk about, take away all my difficulties so I can have a house in Malibu. No, it doesn't say this. Take away all my difficulties so I can be a better use to you and the people I'm going to help. Whoa, I want that house in Malibu. You may get the house, but it's not the primary purpose. So, any questions? No.
Got some good ideas for comic skits.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Throw newspapers at you. Especially if it was good at first. The easiest one is just to have us all chant, I'm not.
I'm gonna do the Sri Ikea knot. I am. I'm gonna have my path to enlightenment. The first things you do, you have to read the instructions to build an IKEA bed. And then you'll move to a cabinet. After you go through the 7 IKEA challenges, you'll be shown the secret.
A retreat in the cabinet. And then a retreat under the bed.
You're not ready to hear this message. Fucking read the instructions and see if you can build it. Because our friend came here tonight. Maybe we should shut this off. No, this is pretty good. Keep it up. Friend come in here and there's 2 doors, right? One's there, one here. And so always that door's the one people go through. But it was closed, but this is wide open. So he came, hit the first thing. The door's closed, and all around. And then I'm saying, but there's one right next to wide open. Then I realized, and then you're going to try to hear some esoteric, sublime fucking message. You can't even see the big open door right next to you because of habit. So I decided we better start having challenges and tests. So you're going to have to build 7 pieces of IKEA furniture. And then come back a year later. Yeah. All right, turn it off now.